What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome, joined by Tyler Stafford and a very special guest, a World Series hero, and more recently, a long-suffering Arkansas and LSU football fan, Space City Home Network's own Geoff Blum. Blummer, how's the offseason treating you? How you doing?
It's been interesting to say the least. Good to finally be on with you guys. Yeah, you're right about the Arkansas LSU issue that we're having. Both coaches being fired, subpar records. Arkansas is still looking for that one SEC win, and then just the full meltdown in Louisiana, which I know that you feel as well.
Well, I'm happy to contribute to both of those problems as an Aggie. So,
Oh yeah.
I feel like I've destroyed both programs for you this year. So you're welcome.
You heading up to that 11 a.m. Arkansas LSU game in Baton Rouge in 3 weeks?
Believe it or not, I will have the entire Blum family in Baton Rouge for that epic matchup in Baton Rouge. And we will be up at the crack of dawn at the parade grounds getting ready for that game in the middle of the afternoon.
Hell yeah. Bring the Bloody Mary.
You better believe it.
Love that. We're not going to talk about SEC. I mean, we could talk about SEC football, but
that would be interesting.
I think we'll stick more to the Astros. Blummer, we'll talk more big picture in a little bit, but some news yesterday. The Astros kind of starting their offseason house cleaning of the roster. To the Cliffs Notes version, they have to get all the guys on the 60-day IL activated by Thursday. To do that, they had to open some 40-man roster spots. And they did that yesterday by putting 5 players on outright waivers. And I think the name that is going to resonate the most is Chas McCormick. Chas McCormick is on outright waivers. That does not necessarily mean that his time in the organization is over. He could, if no one claims him on waivers and he accepts an outright assignment to AAA, he could stay in the Astros organization. But since he has more than 3 years of Major League service time, he has the right to refuse an outright assignment. So there is a chance that Chas McCormick's tenure in the Astros organization will be over. And Blummer, I'm not sure it was a surprise, just given how the last 2 seasons have gone for Chas. A lot of injuries, just a lot of underperformance. But as I wrote yesterday, and I think as a lot of people will understand, like Chas McCormick's place in Astros lore and in like the fabric of the franchise is pretty sealed by what he did in Game 5 of the 2022 World Series. But even though it wasn't surprising, still kind of staggering to see the finality of this, that he could be on his way out.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of sensed or felt that was coming because, like you said, being that postseason hero in the World Series with that catch out there off JT Realmuto. The anticipation that with the injuries with Jake Myers at the time, you said, well, we could put Chas in center field and we can survive. Or when Jake Myers comes back, we can move Chas McCormick to a corner when we lose Kyle Tucker kind of thing. And it just never came to fruition. I know that they gave him plenty of opportunities, and I think that maybe Dana Brown and his crew, in concert with Joe Espada, maybe came to the conclusion with all of the bounty of outfielders that they now have with Cam Smith moving to the outfield, that he became expendable. And like you said, it becomes a business move that becomes a production move. And he just never got back to who he was in that 2022 season where he was playing great defense, putting together great at-bats. And I just really agree with you in the sense that the injuries really hampered any opportunity that he had to make adjustments, because by the time he figured out or maybe started to figure out what he was doing, he'd get injured and have to go back on the injured list. But it's a tough move. He's obviously endeared himself to us both with what he did on the field and for Chandler and I, the personality, the character. He was never a dull moment. If you needed to pick me up, you'd go over and talk to Chas and he'd give you an anecdote or say something off the wall that would kind of bring a smile to your face. So there's a chance he sticks, but there's also a chance he moves, because I think, like you did, or maybe you guys thought, back in 2022, that offseason, there was some interest in Chas maybe being a guy that you could trade for if you're another organization.
Chas has long had suitors from other clubs. I'm not going to say the names out loud, but you think of Chas's profile, right? It's a right-handed bat with a lot of opposite field power. You think of teams that have short porches in right field.
Don't you say this.
There's one that the Astros play kind of frequently in the American League. The Yankees have long had interest in Chas McCormick. I'm not saying that they're going to be the team that claims him. The Phillies need outfield help. That would be a nice full circle moment for Chas as a Pennsylvania native to get back to Philly, maybe to help them. But I think Chas is certainly a guy that just needs a change of scenery. I think he is an ideal change of scenery candidate, and hopefully for him, again, nothing bad to say about Chas as a human being. Worked hard. This was not an effort thing. It just, there was injuries, and then just I think a lot of it was between the ears. Things just kind of piled up on him mentally. And Blummer, you know this. I mean, you played. Like when you start to slump, it's really hard to maybe get out of your own way, get out of your own head as the empty at bats pile up, and you look up at the scoreboard. Chas obviously did, and the numbers were going down.
No, there's no worse feeling than digging into the box, looking up and seeing your numbers around that, Mendoza line, and realizing that you've got to get 4 hits in this one at bat to be able to compete with the other guys that feel like are just racing past you. And I know that's probably how he felt. Cam Smith moving to the outfield, Jacob Melton being rushed, Zach Cole all of a sudden showing up on the scene. I mean, all of a sudden he went from, that 1 or 2 guy in the outfield to all of a sudden being that 5-6 guy in that rotation in the outfield. So I think he kind of sensed, and that, like you said, just continues to pile up. And it's hard to dig out from underneath that.
The other 4 guys that were placed on outright waivers yesterday were Luis Garcia, who just a tough break. I mean, another Tommy John. So you knew that he wasn't. I mean, he's arbitration eligible. They were either going to non-tender him or put him on waivers. That was kind of foregone conclusion. John Rooney, who will be a great immaculate grid answer one day. You can say he pitched for the Astros. Pedro Leon, who once got $4 million to sign with the Astros, and I can't think of a better way to say it just didn't work. He's got all the tools in the world. That is one I would not be surprised if he gets another organization. The tools are out of this world. Like if he can just put it all together. But I had some people that were upset on social media telling me that the Astros didn't give Pedro Leon enough chances. He played 400 games in AAA and took 1,700 AAA plate appearances. I don't know how much more of a chance you want to give a guy. And then Kennedy Corona also on outright waivers. So that takes care of maybe some roster house cleaning before Thursday. As I've mentioned before, we'll get to the GM meetings I'm going to get there Sunday, but they start next Monday. We'll get a lot more from Dana Brown then, but Blummer, as you look at this offseason, what are you excited to see, and what do you think Dana Brown's kind of foremost priority needs to be as he goes into this winter?
I think it's going to be health. There were some guys that were beat around throughout the course of the season, with random stints on the injured list, most notably for me, Yordan Alvarez. What can this ball club be with a healthy Yordan Alvarez? I mean, he is a complete, dynamic shifter in that lineup. Having him for a full season is going to be a big key for me. But once you get past that, then you start to look at some of the positions. And with the addition of Carlos Correa, it obviously creates a little bit of logjam in the infield. Who plays where? Isak Paredes coming back. What happens? Who's going to be healthy enough to even be on a trading block? Who's going to be healthy enough to even be in the lineup? So I think there's a lot of question marks as far as position players. I'm kind of curious to see how the outfield unfolds too, because that could impact Alvarez, Altuve, Zach Coles, the Jacob Meltons. I think the one guy you can count on, and even Jake Myers in that mix, who's expendable as far as trade market is concerned, because I think you're going to have to be creative if you're Dana Brown, trying to figure out how to create at bats for these guys, how to create depth on your position side. But for me, the biggest thing is the assumption is we're losing Framber Valdez. And that is anywhere from a guaranteed, floor of about 180 innings to 200 plus innings. And I think that's where you're going to find Dana Brown having to do some heavy lifting or thinking with his herd of analytic baseball engineers, trying to figure out how you're going to cover innings. Because as you see it right now, Hunter Brown, who's, in the running for Cy Young, which is great. But once you get past that and you don't have a Framber Valdez, who's going to eat those innings and how do you cover those innings? And I think that's probably the biggest primary question you've got to answer early.
So I'm still reeling from Chandler introducing you as a World Series hero, as a lifelong Astros fan. That hurts. But I don't know if you've talked about this. I thought of you immediately when the Pope was elected and we found out that he was a White Sox fan. Have you given thought to the fact that you are more than likely the sole reason that the Pope has had one of his 10 best nights in his life? What does that mean? Have you considered that?
Well, I mean, it's a two-way street if you think about it in that sense. You know, the fact that I mean, granted, I had that one big opportunity and capitalized on it in Game 3 to help the South Side get that championship. And he being a South Side fan, obviously we contributed to a lot of joy and fulfillment in his baseball watching career. But who's to say that he wasn't sitting at home watching Game 3 going, "Dear God, I've been up for 5.5 hours. I am tired. I've got to give a sermon tomorrow or whatever. I've got work. Could you please pick somebody in that lineup to hit a game-winning home run?" And fortunately, maybe he bestowed a little bit of grace on me to allow me the opportunity. But it would be, it would be awesome to try and, get close enough to him to be able to ask him that question. What do you know who I am? Do you realize what happened? And have him answer that question, I think would be fascinating.
He 100% knows who you are. He was at Game 1 or Game 2 in Chicago. Yep. There's video of him there. I keep seeing people bringing him other jerseys to like rib him. I saw somebody bring him a Dodgers jersey and a Cubs jersey. Like if everyone knows he definitely knows who you are. You could get a meeting with the Pope. This is our new goal for the next year. We're going to get you a meeting with the Pope.
Did you get any, I don't know if flashbacks is the right word, but was it fun to watch Miguel Rojas do that in game 7 as someone that's been in that position before, probably the last guy anyone, no offense, but the last guy anyone's expecting to hit a homer. It's to tie a game or to give them a lead that late in the game. That had to be pretty eerie, pretty cool for you to watch.
No, it's amazing. And, I don't watch it in the sense or watch a guy do something like that and go, man, I hope they reference me. I don't look at it in that sense. Right. I just look at it in the sense that when we talk about baseball and we break down baseball and you look at what the Dodgers have done, granted that White Sox team is incredibly different than that Dodgers team in the sense that payroll was off the charts. They're paying more in luxury taxes than 15 teams are in payroll, period. And the guy that probably made the least on that roster, I haven't checked, but he's probably making one of the lower paychecks on that roster. And he had one of the biggest impacts or win probability percentage jumps of anybody on that roster in that given moment. But it's amazing to me that baseball, as it can be so poetic in that sense that you expect the Shohei Ohtanis, the Freddie Freemans, the Mookie Betts, you're like, just get those guys in the box, just get them up there and this game will be tied, it'll be over. And lo and behold, you've got a couple of outs, or you're a couple of outs away from a World Series and you hang one pitch to the 9-hole hitter named Miguel Rojas, who has 50 plus, home runs in his big league career. And he's strictly a defensive replacement and he hits the game go ahead or tying a home run. I love it. I think it's great. And I think it just kind of speaks to, you need all 26 guys on that roster. You need all 40 guys on that roster throughout the course of the season just to set up the opportunity for the number 26 guy to have an impact. But yeah, every time I see something like that, there's a little piece of my heart that goes, "That boy."
Who's the best Ohtani comp on the 2005 White Sox? You said the Dodgers and the 05 White Sox are a little different.
We almost ran the table. I mean, we went 11-1. We dominated and beat the Red Sox the previous winter to go into that World Series. But is there a comp? Man, no, not at all. There's nobody. I can't imagine Bobby Jenks back in the day coming out to take a swing or somebody like that. But I mean, as far as usefulness and opportunity, man, maybe Mark Burley because he had a win and a save in that World Series.
There you go.
He did his Yamamoto impression.
Well, that was incredible, by the way.
Wow. And isn't it amazing how like we view it now, like maybe like 15, 20 years ago, like it would have still been incredible, but like it's feasible, right? Like guys came back on short rest, guys pitch complete games all the time. And now it's like people were calling it unbelievable that he pitched 2 complete games in a row. And it shows you like where we've gone, that like a complete game is now like headline new, like, oh my God, like scrap everything. He threw a complete game.
To be fair, Burley complete games were an hour and 20 minutes and like 76 pitches. So it's a little different.
Yeah, that's bonus time right there.
Yeah.
We'll continue talking about the Astros right after this message from our friends at Foul Territory.
Hey, we've told you about Huel's new Daily Greens ready-to-drink can, but also we do not want to forget about the OG.
Your favorite. You love that chocolate peanut butter flavor.
I do.
You and Kratz love that chocolate peanut butter flavor.
That's
so
my favorite
good.
one. Mm-hmm.
It's so
Want
good.
the breakdown?
The vanilla, also good, but when they sent me the chocolate peanut butter, it's like a dessert, but it's not.
35 grams of protein, no added sugar, gluten-free for your boy, under $5 per meal because it's a meal and a drink. 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the exclusive code FOUL at Huel.com/foul. Use that code, fill out the post-checkout survey to help support FT. Get after it, FT fam.
So there was a little more news yesterday, and I want to caution that nothing's finalized and that still some things to talk about, and they're in the finalist stage of interviewing. But we do have some names for those that have been clamoring for hitting coach candidates for the last month and a half. Victor Rodriguez, who is currently or had served as the hitting coach for the San Diego Padres the last 2 years. He is considered a pretty strong finalist for this job. And I'm not saying it's done, certainly not saying, things can't happen, and nothing's been agreed to at this point. But he is a strong candidate to join the staff with Joe Espada. Also had heard that the Astros had inquired with Andy Haynes, who had been the hitting coach with the Brewers, the Pirates, and the Cubs at various points in his career. Andy Haynes and Joe Espada overlapped in the Marlins organization way back when. They coached on the same staff in the minor league, so there's familiarity there. I'd probably say at this point, Victor Rodriguez is probably closer to a sure thing than Andy Haynes. Again, nothing's done, nothing's agreed to that I know of. But Blummer, on the whole, it seems like we have this debate with every former player that comes on, every current player that comes on about kind of the role of a hitting coach and the value that they bring. Dana and Joe have been pretty forthright that this lineup has gotten away from its approach. They chased a lot, they swung a lot. It was not what we had seen them do at points in this era. Is it as easy as just getting a new voice in there will help, or how much do you look at it as messaging, and how much of it is messaging? How much of it is just the personnel they have is just guys that swing a lot, guys that chase, guys that can put the bat on bad balls a lot and just chase a lot? Where is your balance there, and how do you think hitting coaches can help that?
I think it's really interesting because the analytics have become such a heavy part of coaching nowadays, and I had a hard time watching this team. Now it may be because the Astros have kind of have run through all of these guys that were selectively aggressive. They were very good at zone command. They swung in the zone, and when they did, they made great contact. When it was outside the zone, they didn't chase. So we're starting to see maybe that generation of hitters kind of filter through the Astros and move on. The Bregmans, the Tuckers, some of these guys that were very good at in the zone type thing. And sometimes it becomes an institutional thing where you're not getting the approach taught at a lower level and developing these guys to get to the big leagues, because the idea is once you get to the big leagues, you're going to see more pitches inside the zone. Granted, guys are nastier, spin rates are off the charts, and the ball's moving all over the place, but they have a tendency to be closer to the zone. And that's where I kind of found some of my frustration maybe in the last couple of years watching Astros baseball is, especially in 2025. Granted, there was a lot of roster turnover, so Alex Cintron and Snicker had to work with a lot of different guys. But when you see a whiff rate escalate as quickly as it did, a contact rate drop as precipitously as it did. They were still making hard contact, but they weren't making hard contact in appropriate situations for me personally. I'm a risk guy. I am a get a runner home from third base, less than 2 outs guy. Those are paramount numbers for me for a team to be successful, because the Astros will always do a good job of getting on base. What do you do once those guys are on base? And that's where we saw the numbers kind of drop. 245 with runners in scoring position ain't going to cut it, no matter how good your pitching staff is. So you needed to score those runs. And those are the three kind of areas where I saw it go awry. And for me personally, again, that's all approach. Watching guys take fastballs down the middle in some interesting counts, watching games on a daily basis and anticipating what a pitcher might do to me my next at bat. Granted, I sit in a chair, watch these games. It's easy for me to sit there and go, oh, this is going to be the pitch they're going to throw. But at the same time, I feel like there's enough information, enough eyes on the guys in the dugout that you should be able to see the tendencies throughout the course of a game. So mechanically, you're going to make your adjustments and all that kind of stuff, but you've got to have a strong philosophy of good contact and staying inside the zone, but really focusing on driving runners in. So a lot of it has to do with approach, but it's how you communicate that to guys is probably what got a little stagnant in the Astros.
So can a hitting coach come in and say, hey, our new philosophy this year is we're going to really focus on the runners in scoring position. We want to stick to contact. Like, how do you have a team-wide approach, but baseball's an individual game. Like, you can have a team-wide approach, but each person that steps in the box is, dealing with their own approach and their own strengths and weaknesses. Like, how do you communicate that in a way that you actually see results on the field?
Well, I think there's enough data nowadays. You can go individually, and there's enough people working in some of those baseball ops. So you can pick out each situation and break down the at-bats, where they were successful, where they weren't successful. What pitchers did they have a lot of success against? What pitchers did they not have a lot of success against? And like you said, and you can take individually day by day too. Did I get in a fight with my wife? Did my dog crap on the carpet? Did I not sleep last night? I don't know. You're dealing with that kind of stuff every day too. But at the same time, and I think this even goes to being a manager in the current game, is how do you manage these guys individually and how do you motivate them? And you've got to be able to find those intricacies that you're able to give to these guys and give them tangible evidence and tangible ways to execute what they're trying to do, and just encourage them, because this game is so hard. Trying to hit 3 or 4 different pitches every at bat is just going to make you a worse hitter. I think you've got to narrow it down, focus in key situations, and when you get to a count that you're going to have success or maybe have a higher tendency on a pitch, go ahead and attack it. But I think there's enough data out there where the hitting coach can actually narrow it down to what makes this hitter successful and give them that information and reinforce it and allow them to go out there and be successful.
You mentioned the word, it kind of stagnated. And when this all happened, and I want to be respectful of your position, Blummer. Like, I know that these guys, you're in the traveling party, and I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable spot here. But, when this all happened, the one thing that stood out, Alex Cintron and Troy Snitker have been in the organization for a long time. Like Cintron since 2017, Snitker around that time as well. They both got on the major league staff around 2018. And they obviously, if they're gonna be quote unquote scapegoated for what happened these past 2 seasons, you have to give them credit also for the dynamic offenses that this team had in 2019, 2021, 2022. But you mentioned stagnate. And I asked this question aloud, when this happened. So I guess I'll ask you here. Do you think just the things got stale? Just like when you have the same voices, when it's the same people and it's, a roster that's largely been unchanged. Do you think just bringing just a new set of eyes, a new perspective, and just a new way of saying things, how beneficial do you think that could be?
I think it could be very beneficial. And I agree with you in the sense that I loved Alex Cintron. He was wide open with me in conversations that we would have when I had questions about what's this guy working on. Granted, I wouldn't be able to probably use it in a broadcast just because I wanted to respect that,
right?
That coach broadcaster confidentiality kind of thing. But Snitker was great too. and they had some phenomenal lineups to work with. And there were probably some really good moments where they just said, you know what, I just need to stay hands off, tell this guy what this guy's got, and they'll be fine. But there has to be a certain, I think there has to be a certain adaptability and pliability within your own philosophy and with your roster, because you're getting different guys every single year. You know, the Altuves are going to do what they do. They did a great job with Jeremy Pena, but there's certain guys like the Esox and, you know, maybe Christian Walker to a certain extent where you just know what they're going to do. So maybe on the tendency side, or maybe on the approach side, you can kind of play with that a little bit and say, hey, I'm noticing this. Have you thought about trying this? But I think sometimes if you change the vernacular a little bit, you might perk the ears of some of these younger guys and go, oh, never thought of it that way. Let's try that approach. But you have to be very delicate in working with these guys. And truth be told, too, you know, as much onus as we put on the Snickers and the Cintrons, a lot of these guys have the resources to have their own hitting gurus behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys are getting, you know, information from the field, and they're getting information from the guys that they're working with in the offseason. So as much as we point to the hitting coaches who have a label, there's some other guys behind the scenes that maybe need a little culpability too.
If I can turn this towards you, which, you know, I'm sure you're uncomfortable with. If I'm doing my math correctly, this will be year 14 for you broadcasting with the Astros. You had 14 big league seasons, so you're now even in both playing and broadcasting. What does that mean? I mean, that's 28 years in the big leagues, but you know, what does that mean to you hitting a milestone like that this upcoming season?
I actually appreciate you bringing this up, and you know, it's not one of my attributes to go look at me kind of thing. But, you know, there is a reality in the sense that playing for 14 years alone is miraculous in itself, I feel, especially for a guy like me who had a particular role and had to play for 6 different teams. So I took a lot of pride in that. And then being able to transition into the booth and being able to create a voice and an opportunity here with Houston, and being it through the golden, you know, era of Astros baseball, and realizing that my voice is going to be on top of a lot of those highlights is even more incredible to me. But at the same time, being able to know that I'm going to sit in there and create a second career that was just as long as my previous career is very, I guess, just satisfying. It's incredible, and it makes me want to be better. It makes me want to work a little bit harder to try and maintain this. But it's kind of crazy to think that in 1994, I got drafted by the Expos, and here I am 31 years later, still institutionalized in the game. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity. And obviously, I love being here in Houston.
Was there any, I know that this is the job, right? Like I'm sure you can kind of get jaded with it, but I assume that there are moments throughout the season where it just kind of hits you like, man, this is my job. Like, was there anything from this season, any moment, or even just like stepping into a stadium or maybe talking to somebody pre or post game or something? Was there anything that stood out to you this year of like, man, this is cool that this is my job that I get to do?
Maybe just, you know, there's certain guys on the plane that'll come up and talk to you. So the relationships, it's, you know, talking to Mauricio Dubon, because we share that bond of being a utility type player. So I appreciate him. And the fact that some of these guys will come up and ask me questions, I absolutely adore them for that. So I appreciate them doing that. But I think it was, you know, when Carlos came back to the Astros, and we're sitting on the field talking to guys, talking to the other team. But when he comes out of the clubhouse and gives you a ginormous hug after not being there for 4 or 5 years, and you're like, dude, you know what? I mean, we had a good relationship, but I didn't realize that, you know, he was that happy to be back, and he embraced us, you know. And you always feel like being on the media side that you're kind of the enemy a little bit, because you have to be critical of what they're doing on the field. And we praise them when they do well, but that was kind of the moment where there were moments towards the end of the season when the realization that the team wasn't going to make the playoffs, when I said, you know what? The team isn't succeeding and making my job easier, which it is when they win. but I still enjoyed it. I still look forward to showing up to the field. I still look forward to talking to the guys and having a broadcast. So I think that's kind of where the realization set in for me.
Well, you also went through the 2013 season, so anything is better.
Keep in mind, 2013, 2014, I had to deal with them, but they also had to deal with me too, man. I didn't know what the hell I was doing on a mic. I'm cussing, I'm burping. It's chaos, and I'm going, what the hell are these guys doing? In the back of my head, I'm going, there's no way that guy's ever going to see a big league roster again. It's like, but I had to be very diplomatic about how I said things. But as awful as that was, it was probably the best learning experience for me to go through those 2 years, because it allowed me to get a lot of junk out of the way to be able to be prepared for the better years.
When you stopped playing, like, was this a goal for you? Like, was broadcasting or in media in some way, was that a goal for you? Or was that just something that you got offered a job and like, hey, let me try it, and here we are?
Yeah. So middle of July, I get released and my body's broken. I've got 2 torn obliques. I've had knee surgery. I had hand surgery, and I'm like, I'm out. I get it. I'm like, I can't get on the field as much as I want to. So I knew my career was over, in the middle of July. So, we packed up everything, went home, and I did not plan on being a broadcaster. There were 2 games at the end of 2012 with the Arizona Diamondbacks, who I got released from, that they needed to cover. They had recently fired their play-by-play guy, and who was it? Mark Grace had some issues with the law, we'll say, and they had some open spaces. So they said, "Hey, we've got 2 games. Would you mind coming and covering them?" And I was like, "Dude, you guys are paying me anyways. I'll show up and do it." And it turned out that was my demo reel. But when Jim Crane took over the team, wiped out radio because Milo was retiring, and they got rid of Dave Raymond and Brett Dolan, I believe, at the time. Jim DeShays went to Chicago with the Cubs. Bill Brown pulled back and was only going to do home games. So there were maybe 1 or 2 spots on TV and 2 spots on radio. And talking to Brad Osmus, Mark Loretta, Darren Ersted's, some of these other guys that I played with that had retired before me and were still in the game. And then I knew guys that were outside the game. And I said, any advice? I go, I'm done. They're like, if you want to stay in the game, find a way to stay in the game. And I thought coaching, front office, scouting, whatever it may be, media. And it just so happened that my agent heard about interviews for the Astros TV radio jobs. I took the call, flew out to Houston, and about 4.5-5 hour interview, and got the job. So that's kind of where I landed, and it found me. I didn't find it.
How have you mentioned, like, I mean, when you're working, 2013 Astros games, and you're looking out on the field and you're like, this isn't even, I mean, in your head, and you're probably like, this is barely a big league team. I'm like, how have you, I guess, mastered the art of, like, not saying what's really in your head, I guess, is the way to put it. Like, because I mean, you and I'll peel the curtain back. You and I text during games, and
Yep.
we say some things, both good and bad, that will never appear in print and will never be said on air. How do you balance that? Being in that former player role of just kind of also wanting to be authentic, wanting to be yourself, but also understanding that you've been in that role and this is a hard game. And you're not trying to kick guys when they're down and things like that.
Yeah. Well, initially when I got the job, that was the biggest thing for me, because I grew up in the Joe Morgan eras, listening to him, and back in my day, I never wanted to be the back in my day guy, because the game is evolving so quickly, and guys are obviously bigger, stronger, faster, better. So I realized that, but at the same time, how could I bring my experiences to the modern game is a lot of emphasis that I put on there. But the biggest thing for me, Chandler, was the first couple of years, and going back to what you asked me, Tyler, was about calling games for those terrible teams and anticipating the doom and gloom and being shocked at what I was seeing on the field. Is I was I was still in the dugout reacting like, holy shit, that just happened. Oh my, what in God's name was that guy thinking? Why did you throw that pitch, you moron? I would actually, there were moments where I believe I actually said stuff like that. And I learned that I was going to be a better analyst if I actually analyzed the game after watching the play. So I learned to be very patient. And I also learned that I had a good producer that I could go in my talk back and I could say, what in the name of Zeus's anus was that guy doing on that play? And my producer, to his credit, would respond like, I have no idea. Can you believe that? We'd interact in that sense. So I could kind of get it out. But I learned in those 13, 14, in the years of 13, 14, to just be patient, recognize what I'm seeing, mentally exhaust the negative immediate reaction, and kind of sit back and then analyze the play and say, this is why that play completely blew up. And this is why the Astros are going to lose the game. So I think learning the patience to be able to take a step back, and obviously it's gotten better with TK because TK is such an unbelievable play-by-play guy that I don't have to react. He's already explaining it, and I just sit back, relax, wait for the angle of the play that's coming, and kind of create the thought before I say it, which is probably much better, and I probably should do in more conversations in real life.
Well, I can tell you, I watched every out of the 2013 season for some reason. I was in college at the time. I was working at the student newspaper at A&M, so I was just up all night anyway at a computer. But I started my Twitter account because no one wanted to talk about the 2013 Astros with me. So you may not remember, but you got a lot of tweets from me under the pseudonym Geoff Blogwell for a long time of me and probably 50 other people watching a Tuesday night.
Only 50 watching.
Yeah, watching the Astros. But I remember all of that, and I mean it's crazy to think now this is year 14 for you, and it's been a long great run. I mean that's you've seen the lowest of lows and the highest of highs with the team that you've covered, which I mean as a broadcaster, like you don't, I mean, I would assume you'd rather have the kind of mountaintops and valleys than just go 86 wins every year and be boring. Like the Astros have had plenty of things to talk about for you in your broadcasting career.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you on the peaks and valleys, but don't ever discount the fact that, if there weren't people on the periphery, I've got a great crew in Julian TK. I get to hang around Tags. I get to hang around Chandler. I mean, I don't know if Chandler feels the same way, but there needs to be an outlet for the non-broadcast side to be able to be the fan that says, why don't they move this guy? How come he's not getting called up? Why don't they have the lineup set up like this? You've got to be able to have that outlet. And, obviously being around Chandler on a daily basis has provided that. He's been a great conversation, and sometimes the ideas are the same and sometimes they're not. And I think that's kind of the beauty of baseball. You can have those different viewpoints, but being able to have that outlet actually helps me personally on a broadcast because I can kind of vent a little bit and okay, I got that out of the way. Now I can focus on the game.
They should put a mic in the booth before games.
Could you imagine what that podcast would go nuts?
I don't know who would get canned first. Probably me. Me.
There's a certain reason for that. I mean, I've got a little more leash than you do. I think it's not by much, to be brutally honest.
No, it's not. Before we get you out of here, is there, as we're talking about this, they released the spring training schedule, which I don't even want to think about that. Because of that, is there one young player, whether it's minor leagues that we haven't seen yet, whether it's a guy that we saw this year, is there one guy that you're looking forward to maybe seeing take that next step, be a guy that can really impact this thing and maybe, change the way that we think about the roster, change the way that we think about the trajectory of the team?
Yeah, I wish I was as good as you and Steve Sparks, or both of you and Steve Sparks are, as far as, really digging in on the minor league side and seeing some of those names. I'm a little, so two guys that are kind of piquing my curiosity. On the offensive side, I want to see what Jacob Melton can do. I think he's a phenomenal athlete, but I want to know if the athleticism translates into talent and being able to play a full major league season. the injuries are always an issue, I think, with Jacob Melton, with what he's had to go through. Can he turn that corner? Can he be a guy? I don't know if he's going to be, I want to know what he can be, because I like some of the things that I've seen. I think he was a little too passive in the box for me. I want to see him kind of take the reins off a little bit and be aggressive and see what that swing can do, because his speed for me plays, his defense plays. I want to see what he can do. On the pitching side, talking about eating up innings and trying to stay within the organization, AJ Bluebaugh kind of turned me on that last month. There were a couple of starts where I was like, he gave me 6 innings. He started to punch out the world. He got some swing and miss. And then coming out of the bullpen and what he did out of the bullpen, dear God, I was like, okay, that at 96 with the curveball, his changeup is better than I think a lot of people think. That stuff plays for me, man. And I want to see how he treats this offseason and shows up in spring training, because I think there's a really good opportunity for him to slide into that rotation and have an impact. And just real quick, I want to see if Spencer Arrighetti can, where are these guys? There's a lot of questions, but I want to know how he's going to bounce back from a lot of the injury issues he's gotten through too, because I think his stuff plays well. But AJ Bluebaugh for me might be that surprise for me.
Yeah, Chandler's a Bluebaugh hater for some reason. He refuses to say that he's a starter. I don't get it. He looks like a starter to me.
Let me ask the question: Is that because you haven't seen? I mean, we haven't seen enough. Like, I've seen enough to be like, I like the stuff, but will it sustain itself, and will it be a starter? I think that's kind of where I'm at too.
This is a don't shoot the messenger kind of thing, because all I had heard from people in the organization was they thought he was a reliever. And that was that was even into September when they were giving him starts and he was pitching well. Like, they still kind of thought in the back of their mind he's going to be a reliever. This is a don't shoot the messenger situation. But
you could argue that fact, and I think if you had him for 2 innings, every other day or whatever, I think, man, the stuff is electric, dude.
No, it is. And like we've talked about on here before, like, there is no harm, and that, as is what they should do, he should come to spring training as a starter, like, stretch him out. And then, you know what, if he gets beaten out or if it's not working, it's a lot easier to just put him in a bullpen role from being stretched out than it is to start him in a bullpen role and then stretch him out. So he's going to agree on that. He will get his opportunity to start, Tyler. Yeah. Don't you worry.
Well, he's gonna have a Brad Peacock season where he makes a bunch of starts and then does a bunch of the fireman relief. I'm a big Brad Peacock guy, Blummer. I called him all throughout that 2017 season the staff ace, because he was just out there whenever they needed him.
He's the Mauricio Dubon of pitching.
Exactly.
You need that utility guy. I mean, it's not the most glamorous role and it's tough on the arm, but if you get a guy that can do it, it really helps out.
Okay, I have 2 important questions. I'm going to start with the first one, a little easier here. What's your go-to Hodad's order?
Hodad's?
Is that in San Diego? You out there a lot?
You know what? I was about 45 minutes north in San Clemente, so I didn't spend much time in. Now, if I was going to a beer, it would be a Green Flash. Green Flash was one of my favorite IPAs when I was in San Diego. I would make a point of stopping and getting at least one of those.
There we go. Okay. Second one, I would assume you have a little more of an opinion on. I have 3 young kids. I've got a 5 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. How did you raise triplets? Because I'm going crazy with them separate ages. What were nights like 2 months into having triplets? How did you play baseball doing that?
So, well, I mean, the first 2 months of their lives, they were in the NICU. So I was literally doing laps. I would go when I was at home. When I was on the road, dude, I slept my brains out. I was in bed until noon, and then I'd go to the ballpark, play a game, sleep. But when I was home, it would be go to the ballpark, play the game, come back, and I would actually be in the hospital at midnight giving the triplets their midnight feeding. So, but once they got home from that, keep in mind we had about an 18-month-old at the time too. So my oldest daughter is just running the show, and we introduced 3, obviously bumps on a log infants, and chaos ensued. But I think my entire paycheck what felt like my entire paycheck for the first 7 months of their lives went to, we had a afternoon nanny that would come in and help out my wife, in the middle of the day. But we hired night nurses. We had a nurse that would come in from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. One of them we nicknamed Mary Poppins because she was literally from South Africa, had the accent, the whole 9 yards, came in with the carpet bag. And we were like, let my wife sleep. She was amazing. By the end of that 7 months, we said, she came in and she goes, I think you're good. And we said, give us the routine. She taught us how to swaddle them. We put them down and we didn't see them until 7 a.m. the next day. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen and the best money I've ever spent. So that's how I did it. But I can't imagine having 3, 5, and 6. How old's the youngest?
6 months. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, 6 months. And one thing about having basically Irish quads is everybody went through the same phase at the same time.
Yeah.
So like we were in diapers, we were out of diapers, we were walking, we were baby proofing, we were, first grade. So we were kind of going through every phase. We didn't have to repeat anything, which was kind of a blessing in disguise.
Are they identical triplets?
No, we actually had monoamniotic, which meant two of them were in one sack. And then we had the fraternal triplet was in her own. The two in the same sack were identical twins. So they're literally mirror twins. When they smile, they have a dimple that matches the other one. One's right-handed, the other one's left-handed. I mean, it's insane.
Did you mark who was who when you brought them home?
No, but the nurses did in the NICU.
Mm-hmm.
They had they baby A, B, and C. My wife would come in and scratch it out and be like, Ava, Audrey, Kayla. And every day she would have to do that because the nurse would be like, nope, that's baby A. And they would put dots on the bottom of their feet with a Sharpie, trying to remember who was who and stuff like that. So yeah, it was, they did, but for whatever reason, just that paternal, maternal instinct, we knew who they were.
Thank God you remembered them. And now they, now all of
at least that's a story we go with. Maybe
yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, no, you're Ava. Just go with it.
You mentioned your paycheck. The first 7 months all went to the NICU and night nurses and stuff. Now your paychecks are going to Arkansas and LSU's NIL and
heavy donor to those quality organizations. Yeah, and it's funny because one of the assistant athletic directors, somebody high up at Arkansas under Hunter Erdachek, who I've known previously, but one of the guys that works for him, his name is Dan Trump. And Dan Trump was the backup catcher on my freshman baseball team at Cal. So I call him all the time. I'm like, Trumpy, what's going on with the team? What's going on with this? The basketball team, the football team, the baseball team. But anytime I ask for tickets, I'm always in the touchdown club. He hooks me up and he says every single time, he goes, you're one of our biggest donors. We'll put you wherever you want. So it's kind of cool.
You and a ton of others calling the Hogs in the touchdown club. That's the ideal off season for Blummer. We had to interrupt it and get you on this podcast, but we appreciate it. This was great. Appreciate you giving us insight on everything from the team to triplets and everything in between. We will see you at I guess FanFest is the next thing we have going on.
Yeah,
you going to the winter
next
meeting?
time, right?
Are you going to the winter
What's
meeting?
that?
Are you going to the winter meetings?
No, I'm not going this year. No. Where's it at? Where are the
Winter
general
meetings
manager
are in-
meetings and where are the winter meetings?
The GM meetings are in Las Vegas, and the winter meetings are in Orlando. So
that's close enough to think about it. But yeah, I probably won't be going.
All right. So if we don't see Blummer there, we'll see him at FanFest in January at Daikin Park, where it's always very cold. The Texans always lose a playoff game like that afternoon. They won't have to worry about that this year. But until then, this has been great, Blummer. We really appreciate it. As always, guys, please rate and review us on Apple. Please rate and review us on Spotify. You can subscribe to the Crush City Territory YouTube channel so you can get notified every time we post new pods like this one. As always, you can follow Tyler at Tyler C. Stafford. You can follow me at Chandler_Roman. Blummer, are you at Blummer27?
Yep. I keep it simple, both on Instagram and I haven't been on X in forever, but yeah, that's where you can find it.
Good.
Mhm.
You should probably keep it that way.
Mhm.
But this will be posted on X. Maybe you'll give us a retweet from there. We appreciate this, Blummer. This was awesome. Thank you. Thank you to everybody listening, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Appreciate it.